With the way some of these Pokemon cards have been rising, it does make you wonder, will they ever slow down? And more so, what makes some of these Pokemon cards climb with no end in sight? I mean, recently there's been so much negative talk about the hobby, right? And it's probably most certainly justified. I mean, when everything is sold out and it just seems that all hope is lost to acquire any products, you know, if Prismatic Evolutions is foreshadowing the future for the hobby, it most certainly does not seem bright right now. Though, again, with all the negative media, the disappointed collectors, there has been some cards recently which have been growing insanely in value, and it is a nice little reward for people who have been collecting for a long time. I mean, if you did buy some of these cards a few years ago, right, it's kind of hard to be disappointed when you see some of your favorite cards climbing so much in value, especially since this hobby can be quite expensive, right? So, you know, I personally would hate to buy a Pokemon card for hundreds of dollars and then see the value plummet. I personally love that one of my favorite hobbies can also store some value, and I kind of feel like as time goes on, more and more people are taking Pokemon collecting very seriously, especially with how popular they've become recently. Though it's not just English sets that have been growing in value, even Japanese sets have been growing, and if you're looking for some Japanese Pokemon products, then that actually brings me to today's paid sponsor of the video, which is Bai. Now, Bai is an amazing place to buy Japanese products and avoid some of the high prices. From Bai, you can literally buy anything from Japan. It allows you to buy from Rakuma, Amazon Japan, Yahoo Japan Shopping, Yahoo Japan Auctions, along with many more. Now, what's so unique about Bai is that you can just search for specific keywords and see what comes out. You can literally write Pokemon Booster Box and it will show you what's available. Bai then covers the entire purchasing process on your behalf. So Bai buys the products from Japanese stores, it gets shipped to their warehouse, and then the products are shipped directly to you. It's an incredible service to buy Japanese related products, so if you don't want to pay huge prices for items, Bai becomes incredibly useful, and it's also very internationally friendly as Bai ships to multiple regions which include North America, Oceania, and Europe. So if you're interested and it's your first time, all my viewers get access to a 10% discount for their first orders. Sign up by using the link in the description and hopefully you can pick up some of your favorite Japanese products. So yeah, prices are getting pretty high at the moment, and it's almost like you don't know where it begins and where it ends, because it's almost like every single Pokemon card at the moment is just climbing, and there really isn't some sort of signs of some market slowdown. It's becoming a very, very strong market to be involved in at the moment. So as you can see here, I'm on the Lost Origin Giratina, one of the most iconic, famous kind of cards from the Sword and Shield era, a Shinji Kanda artwork. And as you can see, if we pull this into the year graph, you can see this one had an interesting time, right? So last year it was selling for $247 raw, and then it hit a high of $480. And you can see that kind of dipped all the way down to 340 USD. And right now it's exceeded its previous high and it's sitting at $558. Quite a substantial increase from its kind of low, which it reached in around September last year. Very, very unique card, very interesting, very difficult to grade as a 10. But at the same time, we are looking that these cards are becoming more older. Not only that, we have now a huge influx of new fans. So the amount of people entering the hobby is increasing, and the supply of these is going to be growing at a very slow rate as the years go on, because yes, there is a lot of Lost Origin out there in the world, but you got to remember as well, now the amount of Lost Origin Giratinas that are going to be coming onto the market gets slower and slower as the years go on. You're never going to really have those huge amounts of cards coming in like they were in 2022 and 2023 when the reprint happened. Now they're just going to be going slower, and slower. Now the next one on the list in the last month, you can see on that graph how much it's grown, but it is the Giratina from Crown Zenith VSTAR. Really cool card. I actually did pull this card, believe it or not, in a pack opening. Really cool video as well. You can watch that as well. But now also, I just want to say, if it is your first time here and you've been enjoying the content, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. My name's Phil and I run this Pokemon investing channel. I'd honestly love to have you on board. Check this out, man. I'm in the last month, but just so you can get a real good overview, I'm going to pull this into the last 3 months. You can see this was actually an under $100 card in October, selling for $99. Went all the way to around $133 in around December, and you can see right now selling for $205. This card's doubled in the last 3 months, right? And if I pull that in the month graph, I don't really think that this is going to slow down that easily either, given the fact that Crown Zenith is now getting quite expensive. Now, what happens when sealed product goes up? Well, guess what? The singles also get that little push behind them, right? If the sealed product is rising, well, all the singles also start climbing in value. That's usually how the game works. This card is in a hard position to now fall down in value. We did have the Crown Zenith reprint that happened last year, and you can actually see the effects the reprint had on the market. You can see this Giratina rose to $138, and as soon as that reprint happened, it tanked down to $99, and of course now we're sitting at the prices it's are now. Now also, I just want to say, I am actually going live, and I'm going to be opening some packs, which you can actually purchase yourself to be opened. It's pretty cool. You have a bit of an audience there watching as well, and we all get hyped. A bit of a nice community thing to do. Definitely feel free to check it out. The link for the website to purchase the packs is in the description of this video. Now, moving on to the Arceus V-Star from TCG Player. Interesting things are happening. I'm going to pull this into the year graph. Now, you can see that this low in the market was 50 USD. When the reprint kind of, before it happened, it went up to 97 USD, went down, and it's all the way now at 56 USD. And right now, check what's happened. Right now selling for $123. We pull this in the last month, you can see the Arceus V-Star is following that same kind of growth pattern as the Giratina. So it's actually really interesting. A lot of people were debating, will Arceus be the most expensive card or will Giratina? But Giratina has always been the front runner of Crown Zenith. But this Arceus is a close second, but definitely you can see it struggles to compete with Giratina's price point. Now you can actually see the Origin Form Dialga is also increasing in value. In the last month, selling for 59 USD, currently now selling for 84 USD. You can see a 43% price increase in the last month. That is quite substantial, guys. That is, you're seeing these cards grow in value. And like I said, it really doesn't seem like they're getting capped off at any point either. It's just this consistent growth with these cards. Is it healthy for the hobby? Probably. It's pretty good, right? But at the same time, we can see that the market is growing. It's booming. A lot of new things happening, right? Also, another one that's really interesting is the Mewtwo V-Star. Now, I have to admit that I personally found this card undervalued for way too long. I really loved it. And you know, this card was selling for quite a cheap amount last year. You can see in that last month, check what's happened, man. Selling for $94 in December, right now selling for 120 USD. We pull this in the 6-month graph and look at that price increase, man. It was selling for $55 in July of last year. You know, pretty decent price increase happening here, guys. We can see Crown Zenith is hot. You know, Crown Zenith was such a loved set. The fact that it was so available and you could purchase Crown Zenith whenever was quite strange for a lot of people because, you know, a lot of people, including myself, always found Crown Zenith to be one of the best Pokemon sets that they ever released. It is really good to see some of these prices increasing for the people that believed in Crown Zenith, but at the same time, you know, I do kind of feel like, I have to be honest, with some of the Crown Zenith price increases, the surprise factor isn't that strong with me. In fact, I do think it was lagging behind for way too long. I kind of feel like it's playing catch up right now. And even though the price and the graphs are kind of growing and they're exploding this much in value, it does feel like almost it's just kind of been like a very quick catch up. But in reality, I do feel like this price point was always where it was kind of sitting, right? Now, moving on again, the Blaziken VMAX from Chilling Reign, the chase card of Chilling Reign, essentially. Really cool card, but you can see in the last month as well, check this out, selling for $286 in December, and right now selling for $311. Small increase, but definitely we can see a climb. We pull this into the year graph, you can see this card has not exceeded its previous high of last year. This card, if you were around during last year, it just, as you can see on the graph there, just started climbing in value, then it tapered down. You can see right in January last year, selling for 165 USD. Then when it kind of boomed out of control, hit a market high of 405 USD, and it tapered all the way back down to $256. And you can see right now selling for $311. Hasn't actually exceeded its previous high, but very likely with the current climate we're in, very likely with how many more fans are now researching all the sets, because I speak about that a lot, right? When a lot of these new fans come in, what do? They start researching the older sets. They start going back in time. They go, wow, that set was cool. Wow, Chillin' Reign was awesome. Man, Fusion Strike is cool. How much is a Fusion Strike booster box? Oh, wow, it's $500. How much is the Gengar VMAX chase card? Oh, wow. You know what? Maybe I'm going to buy that now so I can get some skin in the game. People start researching older sets. You know, curiosity starts happening. Now, another one is the Leafeon V-Star from Crown Zenith. You can see this was selling for 32 USD in December, and right now selling for 44. You know, pretty big percentage growth for the card. It's only 44 USD right now, though again, it is an evolution. With what's happening with evolutions at the moment, I think it's pretty comfortable to say that, you know, these cards are quite heavily in demand. Now, a lot of these prices can be quite overwhelming, right? Though if you're new to collecting, I always find it good to have a community to guide you, so please feel free to join my channel's Discord server. Within the server, you'll be able to ask questions to experienced collectors, along with posting your favorite pack pulls. There's also some awesome Discord exclusive giveaways. The server invite is in the description of this video. Now, another one that's really interesting is the Sylveon VMAX. The last 3 months for this card have been actually really unique, okay? So you can see this was selling around $192, and you can see, look at that big spike, now selling for $257. Kind of following what's happening with Umbreon at the moment, which I'm about to get into. But of course, this Sylveon is very loved. VMAX Alt Art, one of the ones from Evolving Skies. It's really interesting how much some of these other evolutions lag behind the Umbreon, but nonetheless, really unique to see that this card is growing at this rate. Moving on, which is probably the most interesting card, I think what's happening at the moment is the Umbreon VMAX. Pretty much, tripled its price from last year, where everyone thought that that was like a really high price point of $500. I'm gonna pull this into the year, and you can see the kind of growth this card has had. Moving down here, you can see this was selling for $542 last year. Mind you, that was one of the most expensive modern chase cards pretty much of all time. Now, you can already see that this kind of went up all the way to $958, tapered down to $862, and right now selling for $1,500. I'm actually seeing PSA 10 slabs sell for $3,000 USD each. Very crazy, man. I didn't think that Umbreon VMAX would get this price point. I have to be honest, this really took me by surprise. I do think it was a good card. I do think it's rare. I do think it's unique. I do think it's loved, but do I think it was worth that much? Well, you know what? The market's decided, right? The market has said, hey, this is the price point we're willing to pay, and that's kind of happening. But don't forget, the people that collect Umbreon VMAX aren't just Pokemon collectors, right? They're not just people who invest in collectibles. You do have sports card and other people and other TCGs that want the Umbreon VMAX. It is kind of a trophy card, right? It's kind of a very iconic card, for Pokemon in general, right? It's going to be very interesting to see as the years go on where Umbreon VMAX goes. Is it going to become a $20,000 card? Is that what, it's crazy that I'm even saying that, but at the rate this is going, if this kind of momentum keeps building in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, I mean, yeah, it could. It really could see some insane price growth where people just really want this card in their collection. Now, moving on to another interesting one is the Gengar VMAX, which I was talking about. Now, this card is really growing quite quickly. You can see this was selling for $482 in December, right now selling for $601. Just honestly kind of speechless at some of the growth. Pull that into the 6-month graph. You can see this was selling for $300 in July. Pretty much doubled your money if you bought this in July. I mean, this card is really awesome anyway, but we can really see that these cards are really getting some high price points. Moving on to the next one, which is the Bubble Mew. Now, you can see on that graph there, it's finally had some level of slowdown. For such a long time, this card was rising. I'm going to pull this into the last 6 months so you can get an idea what's happened with this card. Now, you can see this card was selling for $75 in July of last year. Then it kind of decided to go all the way up to $305. Don't ask me how that even happened. That was just like, wow, okay. Then it kind of tapered down to around $266, and right now selling for $285. Very small slowdown, but still the kind of price growth that this had was just unbelievable. Paladin Fates is getting a little bit harder to find, right? I mean, it's not that easy to get. Paladin Fates is pretty desired, but you can see selling for $285, quite an expensive card, still raw. And it is a pretty new card as well, right? And of course, we have another interesting one, which is the Bulbasaur illustration rare in the last 3 months, selling for $34 USD, now selling for $50. Nothing too crazy, but then again, the percentage growth is quite big. You can see the market low for this was 31, and of course, it is sitting at pretty much the highest point in the market since pre-sale, right? Though as interesting as it is to have these price increases, it also shows how resilient Pokemon is as a franchise. However, I think one question that comes up is, how do you build a Pokemon collection that grows in value? Well, in this video right here, I look over the 5 ways to build a Pokemon collection that grows in value. Click the video that's appearing on screen and we'll talk more about it there.